Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. If you joined us last week for our portmanteau episode leading up to Secret Society of Supervillains, you might be surprised that this week we're not jumping directly into Secret Society of Supervillains. No, we have another preamble, prologue, presentation or premiere prelude to Secret Society, following on from last week where we encountered characters that had the same names or similar motivations to members of the Secret Society of Supervillains. Peter has uncovered an absolute, I can't think, it blew my mind, frankly. An absolute cracker, quite frankly, that alludes to, do you know what? We're going to read Charlton Premiere, issue 3, published on 26th of September 1967, directly between episode 4 of Tomb of the Cybermen and episode 1 of The Abominable Snowmen.
Ooh.
Lots of men in Doctor Who that year. And Peter's going to tell us where and when he found it and all about it and what's happened on the cover and everything.
One of the things I like to do in the podcast is have a look at some public domain comics and poke around there to see if there's anything that we could use or anything that might have inspired or been inspired by some stuff that we're covering in the podcast. And one of the publishers that some of their stuff, but not all of their stuff, is in public domain is Charlton Comics.
Aha!
Later acquired by DC.
Yes.
So I was having a look through and I found a big debate online about whether this issue was in public domain. It's Charlton Premiere issue 3. And then I saw what Charlton Premiere issue 3 was and I thought, this ties quite neatly into what we're doing for Secret Society of Supervillains.
Because one member of the Secret Society is the long-established rogue Green Lantern, Sinistro.
Of Corrigar. And this issue of Charlton Comics that I found, Charlton Premiere issue 3, top third of the cover is the logo. Charlton Comics, Charlton Premiere issue 3, Comics Code Authority approved, thank goodness, 12 cents. Charlton Premiere presents Sinistro, Boy Fiend. Yes, not Sinestro, but Sinistro with an I in the middle.
Yes. Listeners, I know. You don't have to sit here and read it, listeners.
Yes.
You didn't have to buy a copy from the States and get it imported and see how long it was sitting at whatever it is in Illinois for ages and all that.
Mm-hmm. Evil's old superhero, or super smart Alec, says the captioning. And we have an image on the cover of the aforementioned Sinistro. He is a young man wearing kind of a waistcoat with a cape, with a domino mask almost over, but it's a bit thicker than a domino mask, over his face. He's wearing a dress shirt with a bow tie and puffy sleeves, fancy shoes. Yes, he's got, is that a stripe down his trousers?
Oh, yes. Very smartly.
Very dapper, yes, bow-tied. Bow ties are cool. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting on 2 books. One's called Bad Guys in History. The other is Tales of Frankenstein. There's a box beside them marked Long Pins. And there's another box opened in front of him, the lid of which says Superhero Dolls. And on the cover of that lid is the image of the Blue Beetle making his Earth 2 podcast debut.
Yes, it's the Earth 2 podcast debut of Ted Codd's Blue Beetle, ladies and gentlemen.
And he's holding up a doll of Blue Beetle, and he has one of those long pins in his hand, looking like he's going to apply some voodoo.
Oh, heck.
Perhaps to the figure of the Blue Beetle. There are 3 other hero figures in front of this pile of books. Standing is the figure that we recognise as the Peacemaker. There's one lying down, which it seems to be in a patriotic kind of outfit, not one that we're familiar with like stripy shorts, blue boots, a red top with kind of an eagle on it, and a blue cape.
Kind of reminds me of that guy that Steve Trevor turned into.
Oh, yes.
That time, round about this time, from memory serves, but it was years ago since we did those stories.
Yeah.
So.
And there's another doll standing behind Peacemaker's doll, a guy in a mostly skin-tight blue costume, with the letters SG on his chest. He has a red cape, red boots, red shorts, and a red mask on. I wonder who this could possibly signify.
Interesting.
Looking on appalled at all this is the grooviest chick imaginable. Yes, there's this blonde girl. She's wearing kind of like a twiggy cap high in her head. She's got a black vest top on. She's wearing bright yellow trousers with lots of floral patterns on it, looking a lot like Goldie Hawn of that time.
Very much so. I mean, flared yellow trousers with flowery prints, Did anyone ever wear clothes like that in real life?
Yes.
In anyone's real experience? I don't think they did, but my family's from Johnston, so so there you go.
And of course, all this was drawn by the artist Henry Scarpelli, whose signature is in the bottom corner.
Interesting. Yes, so it's not only the Earth 2 podcast debut of Blue Beetle, but the Earth 2 podcast debut of Peacemaker. Did you see that coming, listeners? I bet you didn't. I didn't. Peter, when did you first encounter Ted Kord's Blue Beetle?
I think it was actually on the cover of Justice League #1.
Right.
Because I got that from the newsagent around the corner from the high school that sold it, and I thought, who the heck is this guy? Shortly afterwards, I discovered AKA Books and Comics and went there and picked up some back issues and got the Legends run.
Sure.
His own title was starting at that time as well. So, yeah, I got all those and fantastic. Love the character.
I didn't have every issue. We've talked at length in the past about this spotty distribution that we had to deal with in those days, and I got most of the issues of Legends as it came out, so I'm certain that that's where I encountered them, but I was able to, the distribution was good enough that I was able to read like the first 6 issues of the Giffen Maguire de Mateus Justice League, so I got to know him quite well there, and obviously picked up and read that series further on, so yeah, he's someone else that I think if you're of a certain age and you read that Justice League and his ongoing book, you're very fond of him. I think he was arguably the best sort of integration of a purchase from another company that DC did. I would argue that they've always struggled to integrate the Marvel family.
Yes.
Like Shazam operated separately, they're in their own continuity, their own continuum. Ongoing books have sort of spluttered. Obviously, Ted Blue Beetle hasn't had an ongoing in a very long time, but I think as far as being properly integrated and seen as a proper member of the DCU, I think certainly post-Crisis,
definitely,
I think he was a bit more successful in Captain Marvel. When did you first encounter Peacemaker?
Peacemaker, I'm not entirely sure. It might have been Paul Copperbird's Checkmate. I think he turned up in that in a crossover, or it could have been in Vigilante. I certainly remember getting his original miniseries, the 4-issue Paul Copperberg miniseries, which is a very interesting read. Yes, very fun, but he's a nutter.
I've never read it.
Oh, really?
I've never read it. I've never owned it. I have no idea the first time I experienced it. I might have been, by the time I was 20 and was starting to collect Crisis, because he does pop up in there. There's a sequence of him and Blue Beetle in The Question, I think, on a rooftop. That might have been it. Even now, post-Suicide Squad movie and number of comics I've properly read with him, and I could probably count in one hand, to be honest. It's fascinating how much of a profile he's developed in the last few years. Probably, let's be honest, off the back of James Gunn's brilliant writing and John Cena's brilliant performance. Yeah, true. It's interesting because he's had a couple of miniseries in the last couple of years, which wouldn't have happened, I don't think, without the success of Suicide Squad and all that. And when he popped up in the Superman movie, and you're just sort of like... Really, when you think about it, if you contemplate the entire published history of DC Comics, the fact it's Peacemaker that turns up and gets a tiny cameo is fascinating. I mean, obviously, it was probably recorded while they were filming Series 2 of the show and all that. There are obviously many other DC heroes that could have popped up instead. Yes.
But James Gunn likes to milk the whole history of DC Comics, which is great. That's one of the reasons why the Suicide Squad was fantastic.
Yes.
So,
yeah, listeners, when did you first encounter the Blue Beetle and Peacemaker? Write and let us know. Peter will tell you how to do that later on. So, shall we get into it then? Yes. Sinistro. Not Sinestro, but Sinistro. It sounds quite like him. And frankly, that is enough to justify doing this. So the inside front cover already appeals to me because there's an advertisement for some monkeys singing pin-ups. A different song on each pin-up. So there's mention of I'm a Believer, A Little Bit Me, Last Train to Clarksville, and I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. And underneath that, there is a half-page advertisement. To learn to play guitar the Chet Atkins way. So that's tremendous.
It's the best way.
Yep. Underneath this, we're told it's 12 cents per copy of this comic, but you can get an annual subscription for 70 cents. But of course, only one more issue was published after this. So I hope anyone that did take advantage of that offer got a refund. So we begin with a caption reading Sinistro Boy Fiend, and I can't help but wonder if that's a play on boyfriend as well.
Quite possibly.
Just dropping the R. It reads Sinistro Boy Fiend in
Too Many Happy Endings.
We're told the art is by
Henry Scarpelli.
And we begin with a caption.
Fate has cast Jack Biceps in the mold of the all-American boy, doomed to wholesome good looks, the admiration of his fellows, and the firm faith of his parents and teachers that young Jack will play the hero's role in life. However, this image is none of young Biceps' doing. In fact, Jack Biceps intensely dislikes the good guys in our culture. He has no love for Captain USA, the Green Spider, Ant-Man, A-U-N-T.
Ant-Man spelled A-U-N-T is possibly the greatest joke I've ever seen.
And he holds a special hatred for those greatest superheroes of all, the Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, and Thunderbolts.
So there's quite a lot going on here in this image. There's a cauldron over a burning fire. We see Jack Biceps, young chap with brown hair, which seems to curl up at the front into devil horns, which is quite amusing. He's wearing a black t-shirt. He's obviously quite buff. His shoulders are very broad. He's hanging about with a few others. A boy with short brown hair wearing dark shades and a blue lace-up front shirt. There's a guy in a green and black striped shirt. He's got dark hair. There's a sandy-coloured hair fellow with looks like a spider balanced on the end of his nose. And the girl looks very much like the girl we saw on the cover, wearing a red cap and a far-out red and black pattern top. She's got blonde hair in bunches. And Jack Biceps is taking a sip from whatever is that's in this cauldron, and bubbling out the steam of this cauldron, we can see what looks like representations of Dracula, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and a werewolf. Now, I hope you're taking this all in. As he takes a drink from this stuff, Jack exclaims, "Yay!" And the cookie girl, whose name hopefully we'll get in a moment, exclaims, "I warned you, Jack Biceps, that yon foul mixture would turn you to a ghoul."
Here is Jack Biceps playing the role of host to his little friends. Boys and girls who firmly believe that good guys always win, bad guys always lose, which infuriates Jack Biceps, who at times like this wants to be known simply as Sinistro the Boy Fiend.
Jack rebukes the blonde girl's assertion, saying,
"Cool schmool, fool. It's too hard, Saul."
Blonde girl says, "He's too much." Chap with the dark hair and the green and black striped shirt says,
"He's reaching this time. Crass sensationalism."
And the boy with the shades says, "I suppose the main course will be worm sandwiches, because he could not get caterpillars." Top of page 2, we have another caption.
Sinistro Boy Fiend adds a little powdered mushroom, couldn't find toadstools, goat horn, spinach, and indignant goldfish. Now it's time. He motions for silence.
Yes, we see him holding a hand up to tell his friends to cool it. Blonde girl says, "No, Jack Biceps, you're too cool to be a ghoul."
"Be still, Bat-Bait. Might need a little salt."
He hesitates before taking a drink. The blonde girl eggs him on, saying, "Go on already." And Jack takes a big... And as he takes a drink, maybe they spotted a full moon, one of his friends, boy in a white shirt this time, exclaims, "Yuck!" But then we see Jack drop the ladle with a crash. And we see that he seems to be surrounded by arcs of yellow electricity. He opens his mouth and his tongue burns red and there's a sound effect. His friends look a little concerned. One of them ducks behind the chair. The blonde girl says, "We've got to help him." The guy in the black and green shirt says,
"Get back, he's going to explode."
And Jack is rocking and shaking. There's all sorts of sound effects like
snap, ash, pop, crackle.
He's turning into a giant bowl of Rice Krispies. A caption reads,
"Is this the end of Jack Biceps, 100% American boy?"
You see Jack's face contort and look very strange as more flames burn from his tongue as the blonde girl cries, "Look, look, he's not the same sweet boy I've known and loved." The captioning resumes,
"Or the beginning for Sinistro Boy Fiend."
And as the yellow electricity continues to arc around him, there is a massive and then and there's no actual sign of him. The blonde girl says, "We've got to help him. Someone get a stomach pump." Dark hair lad says,
"Darn, I left it at home."
And indeed, the captioning confirms my assertion as it reads,
"Then, as the smoke clears, they know the worst. Their friend Jack Biceps is no more. There ain't even no Sinistro neither."
Black and green shirt boy says,
"He's gone."
"He took a trip maybe," says Cookie blonde girl, and shades and blue lace-up shirt guy says, "He owes me for the night crawlers I dug. For the sandwiches." They're all looking into cupboard doors and under carpets, and then blonde girl says, "He's vanished. Gone, just as he predicted, into another dimension. Vanished into space, streaking across the Milky Way." And then we see a door, which is closed, and we hear from inside, and a caption reads,
"Aha! We found Sinistro, Boy Fiend. Observe, he is green. His eyes protrude. He grimaces hideously."
Yes, this is all very accurate. And then he coughs again. And a caption reads,
"Is this the face of a ghoul?"
And then we see that God, he's hiding in the bathroom.
"Not so. No ghoul. Here is the face of a..."
"Fool!
What a fool I was! I should have stuck to the recipe.
He walks back towards his friend, speculating, saying,
Perhaps it was the ground spider or the essence of jellyfish. No, I know what it was. I just used a little too much salt.
Jokes. Jack walks back in, looking almost back to normal. His friends are still there. We see the blonde girl who gets a name in a panel, don't you worry. She's holding up the ladle, looking as if she's going to take a drink. As Jack walks back in, she says, You've got a lot of your potion left, Jack, and it's cooler now. I've got a clean glass here.
No thanks, Cherie. You'd all better leave now. I've got important business.
Yes, Shirley, so that's her name. In the next panel, you listeners can take a drink because there's an enormous full moon as Jack's friends take his leave, speculating about how weird he is and how he might be a genius or sick. But from inside Jack's home, we hear a massive... And then we see Jack looking at a large packing case which has written on it, Simple Do-It-Yourself Kit, High Grow Gyro. He says to himself,
Now to get down to business. It said in the brochure that this will only take 30 minutes of my time.
And the next page is basically some comedy business of Jack attempting to open the crate using a screwdriver, using a hammer, not getting very far. He kicks the box, which the box seems to rebound at him again. And then we see a sign on the side of the box that reads, Don't kick or... And one side of the box, well, it seems to be opening. Don't kick or, so Jack says...
Or what?
And then in the first panel, page 7, the box explodes. And we see tons of springs and bits of metalwork and screws and stuff all flying out, striking Jack and knocking him over. He stands up looking at this collection of metal equipment and says,
Cool, calm and confident. That's Sinistro, boy fiendish genius. It's got to be here somewhere.
And he spends the rest of the page hunting through all this metalwork, trying to find something. And in the final panel he says,
I can't find They didn't send There isn't any instruction book.
Gosh. First panel of page 8. Oh, page 8 already. He's holding up a couple of bits of metal. I'm not a mechanically minded person, so I don't know what you'd call that. I don't know what you'd call that either, but he's holding up these 2 bits of metal and he's looking from one to the other and he says,
Undaunted, I forge on in the proud tradition of evil geniuses of the ages. Let's see. This bolts to that? Or is it that to this?
For days, Sinistro Boy Fiend is not seen in his usual, pardon the expression, haunts. From his garage comes the sounds of frenzied activity.
Yes, we see the outside of his building with Shirley and a couple of the other lads. One of the boys now wearing a brown shirt as opposed to stripes. Shirley's all decked out in green. She looks fabulous. We can hear lots of
pow, blam, blam, thump,
sound effects coming from the building. The boy in the brown shirt points and says,
What's Jack Biceps doing, Shirley?
Don't call him that. He changed his name. He's Sinistro Boy Fiend now. And then they move towards the garage because they hear the sounds of an internal combustion engine. There's a massive bang, and a hole bursts in the wall, and Sinistro Boy Fiend comes flying out, and what is obviously some small... It looks like a helicopter, but without the overhead rotor blades. There's a big bubble that he's sort of sat in on a chair. There's a control panel, which is identified as a super weapon panel, and there are skids and sort of feet underneath like you would normally see on a helicopter. And he flies away saying,
I, Sinistro Boy Fiend, am off.
And one of his friends down on the ground remarks, Just what I always said, he's off his rocker. And then at the top of page 9, we see Jack's little device flying through a busy city in a bald man with a moustache, boggling with a giant question mark as he's obviously up very high as Jack's little whatever it is flies past him. And the caption reads,
It isn't a bird. It isn't a plane. It really isn't even a helicopter. Whatever it is, Sinistro soars high over Gothamville. Seeking evildoers? Wrong.
Because Sinistro himself says out loud,
I'm not seeking evildoers. The ones I'm after are those who butt in all the time. Guys like Peacemaker, the famous Charlton hero, and Captain USA. Real creeps like Blue Beetle and Green Spider are the ones who bug me.
And there's a great shot of his device flying through the air with an enormous sound effect as he says,
I'm sick of this business of good guys always winning.
In the next panel, we see that Sinistro has taken out a weird sort of set of binoculars, peering through it. He says and then thinks,
It's getting so a self-respecting bad guy can't make a move without some creeping long underwear getting in his hair. I'll scan the sky with my super binoculars. Aha! I thought so.
And then we see what Sinestro sees. We see the Peacemaker flying along. We see Blue Beetle. We see a couple of other characters, one of whom presumably is Captain USA. He's wearing a red shirt, blue cape, stripy shorts. There's the other guy in the blue unitard with SG written on his chest. He's a red cape. He must be Super Guy. And floating behind him, there's another guy in green with a design on his chest who must be the Green Spider. There's a caption which vocalises Sinestro as it reads,
"Look at them!" Sinestro snorts, "jostling each other in their disgusting eagerness to pounce on some poor, inoffensive criminal. Right now, I bet there's an evildoer in the act of committing a crime."
Yep, the heroes are on the case. And a tiny caption at this point reads,
End of Part 1.
over the page 10, a caption reads,
Part 2. Sinistro and the Super Guys.
And back into the story, we see a few chaps up to no good. One guy dressed in brown, a neat hat. Another guy also dressed in brown with a black hat. Another guy dressed in green. And they've both got machine guns. And the guy in brown has got a bunch of wires in his hand that are all connected up to a massive safe. The caption tells us that they are in the act of perpetrating a dandy crime. One master criminal about to dynamite a vault. And of course, flying overhead, delighted to see this, is Sinestro, who spots it and cries,
"This is more like it. He's lighting the fuse."
Sinistro, watching from the skies of Gothamville, sees the tough professionals open the vault like it was made of wet napkins. None of these Super Batinskis could stop them now.
there is a massive and we see an explosion ripping a hole in the side of a building and banknotes flying everywhere. Sinestro looks on, laughs and says,
"This is one time when the bad guys win."
and inside the vault we see the gang leader directing a couple of his goons to fill up their sacks with lots of money. As they try to make their leave, Sinestro observes and says,
"They'll escape with $500,000 in cool cash. Nothing can stop them now."
But
appearing in the door of the vault is, well, one of the goons identifies him when he cries, "It's Super Guy!" And we see this chap, blue unitard, black trunks, red boots, red gloves, very simple red cowl and a sort of Golden Age Sandman once Kirby got hold of him tight way, long red cape. He declares that he's making a citizen's arrest and then proceeds to punch the bad guys all over the place while they fire at him. Sinestro observes this, saying,
"Darn Super Guy, with all these characters around, a rotten old crook doesn't have a chance nowadays."
suddenly, traveling at the speed of light, Captain USA flashes across the sky. Sinistro almost gets zinged, and turbulence in his wake nearly rips the helicopter apart.
Annoyed at this, Sinestro shouts,
"Big boob!"
and then with a
Screech!
Captain USA stops running through midair, pulls to a halt, saying, "What did you call me?"
Nothing, sir."
"Next time, shut up when you speak to me," says Captain USA as he punches the helicopter, even though it's not a helicopter, with an amusing
Splat!
We then see the helicopter plummet to the ground with some sound effects like
Splat! Splat!
and poor Sinestro saying,
"These do-gooders don't care who they trample on when they're on a mission. My engine is quitting. I'll try to land back at my base."
Back at the house, Sinistro finds Shirley Peach, his O&O.
one and only, I wonder?
Could be.
Shirley's got changed again, wearing a short red mini dress with hoops and wearing a black belt. She says, "I think you're Marvy, Jack, but couldn't you be a good superhero? My mother says..."
"That field is overcrowded, Shirley. Besides, it gets so dull having all the crimes end the same way. I'm going to change all that."
What will the Boy Fiend be up to next? Will it be an urgent mission? Indeed, answering a powerful summons?
Yes, we hear off camera a voice saying, "Jack, you come in here this instant."
"Coming, Mother."
And we see Sinestro start to take off his gloves, but we also see lurking round the side of a building a shifty-looking guy dressed in brown. Jack, biceps, because he's got out of his Sinestro gear, walks into the kitchen at home, saying,
"Ma, quit bawling me out with the windows open. The neighbours. I'm not a kid."
And we see his mother, red-haired woman with a bow in her hair, making dinner, some kind of brown lump surrounded by vegetables. She replies, "Ha! Sinestro indeed." Some time passes, Jack's obviously in his room. We can see he's got a pin-up calendar, which is quite amusing. And he gets psst at from a voice behind him. Jack says,
"That's a strange
and
sound."
he crosses to his bedroom window to see that a chap in brown who was eyeballing him earlier has climbed up, obviously must be quite high because it's a very big ladder, and he is handing over a message to Jack, which Jack then reads.
"Your boss, the head of the Mosa Dosa, is planning a caper, and he wants Sinistro Boy Fiend to be the lookout. I accept the challenge. Go and tell him this."
And the chap takes his leave, climbing back down the ladder, which does look bizarre as Jack says to him,
"Why not go out the front door?"
"Somebody might see me and think I went legit." Top of page 14, Jack's in his bed. His mum looks in on him saying, "Good night, Jack dear."
Nighty-nighty, Ma.
But then as she leaves, we see Jack spring into action. He is fully dressed in his Sinistro outfit. Pulls out his mask. We can see a full moon outside as he puts into position saying,
"Now to seek out the forces of evil, to help thwart the enemies of free enterprise."
Sinistro Boy Fiend doesn't use his crime copter this night. His newly developed mini-jets propel him at the speed of light. Would you believe? Sound? Hound?
And take a couple of drinks, listeners. There's a couple of full moons in the next panel. We see Jack whoosh out of his bedroom window, flying off as he thinks.
"The note from the head of the Mosa Dosa says to come to the Wax Museum at midnight. I hope I'm not too late."
And then he arrives at the place. We can see that indeed it is labelled Wax Museum.
For an eerie moment, Sinistro thinks he got a bum steer. Then the inbuilt ultra-sensitive heat detector indicates there is life in these dummies. In fact, they are...
And we see that Sinistro is inside, looks at what he thinks is a display of 3 goons, who look very like the goons we met blowing up the safe earlier. One guy in green, one guy in brown with a brown hat, one guy in brown with a black hat and a Tommy gun. And he says to them,
"You dummies of the Dosa Mosa?"
"Watch the way you say that, Sinistro," says the guy in green, and a caption says,
Then they move, and the leader, Irish Jaime Schultz, explains.
Yes, he explains as Sinistro asks who he is, and in reply he gets, "I'm Irish Jaime Schultz. My picture's in all the first-class post offices, chum. We gotta hold meetings here on account of them crime fighters like Peacemaker, Blue Beetle and so on keep butting in. Every time 2 of us hoods make a meet, one of them gets nosy. That's where you come in. Them super characters always operate the same way. They wait till we're in the middle of a job, then they come around with their secret weapons and all."
Yes, it's terrible. What do you want me to do, Mr. Schultz?
"Keep 'em off of our backs. Give us time to get away with the loot." And while this conversation has been going on, there's a dummy of an elderly lady holding an axe, which a caption says,
I may be wrong, but I thought I saw the waxed old lady's eyes move.
"Yeah, she watched him. That's a bit weird."
Suddenly, Sinistro freezes. His super keen eyes have detected motion. Life, where there should only be lifeless wax.
Sinistro holds up a hand to still the gangster, and he also brings out a little golden gun, and he says,
"Be quiet, Schultz.
"Now, hold on, Sonny. You see something?"
I wanted to try this supergun ever since I filled it with ink."
And he fires it at the dummy of the old lady.
"I was right. Grandma's a phony."
And the dummy of the old lady, which is being scooshed with ink, we can see a sign in the background that reads "Axe Murderous at 90 years old." She exclaims, "You young whippersnapper!" One of Schultz's goons brings up his machine gun saying,
I'll fix her. Him?
and he fires with a... But we see that the old lady was not an old lady. She rips out of the old lady costume, and underneath it is a muscular man in a green unitard with a black spider on his chest. It's quite funny because the wig goes flying off. He announces himself saying, "You poor fool! Now I shall wipe you out!" And Sinistro tells us who he is when he says,
"Smoly hoax! Green spider! Should I do it? I do it!"
and he fires his ink gun into the face of the green spider. He tells Mr. Schultz and his guys to leave. They run for it. Green Spider confronts Sinistro saying, "Identify yourself. Why do you befriend the forces of evil?"
"In the name of fair play, I befriend evildoers, Green Spider. Whenever great plans are made which are against the law, the conspirators are harassed and threatened by a horde of you super characters. You travel at supersonic speed. You're bulletproof. You can see through walls here to the horizon. You hurl bolts of lightning, burn with laser rays, read the criminal mind, swim like fish, bore through earth, outthink, outfight, and you always wind up getting the girl."
"Oh, that's it. All right, then you can have the girl. Lately they've had acne and bad breath, and stand aside, Sinistro. I'm going to capture that gang."
"Oh, no, you're not."
"You leave me no choice, Sinistro." And in with a
"Suck!"
the Green Spider punches Sinistro, who goes flying, but he manages to convert that into flight, and he flies out the window, take a drink as a full moon. As a dazed Sinistro scoots off, he says,
"I was leaving anyway."
As Sinistro, Boy Fiend, hurtles above Gothamville, he is not alone. For crisscrossing the sky is the mightiest armada of enemies of evil ever assembled in one place.
"Gosh! Very glad you found this, Peter. It's fascinating." Yeah, we see, obviously, it's the Peacemaker's jet. It's got a little bird symbol sprayed on the side. We see the Blue Beetle's blue bug, making its first appearance in the Earth 2 podcast. Probably its last appearance for a very, very long time. They're cutting along. Super Guy is flying along. Green Spider's flying along. And flying past them all, of course, is our Sinistro Boy Fiend. It looks though Super Guy has flown very closely and looked around Green Spider, getting in his face because Green Spider says, "Watch it, Super Guy. This is my turf." Super Guy replies, "Quit mashing your mandibles, you insect. I'm Super Guy. I fly where I please." Noticing all of this, Sinistro thinks to himself,
Poor Irish Jaime Schultz doesn't stand a chance. I've got to find them and warn them to call off the caper.
We see him flying along, and also Captain USA standing on a ledge at the side of a building. Fantastic.
Irish Jaime hasn't cancelled his plans. Far from it. Just as Sinistro Boy Fiend finds him, the last act has begun.
Yes, we see Sinistro flying down as Schultz and his pals are cutting along in their green motor car. Sinistro says,
Pull over, Mr. Schultz.
One of Schultz's goons says,
It's Sinistro, boss. What do I do?
Ignore him. Release the gas. And then there's a sound effect as a white cloud of gas emanates from the back of the car, flying up and surrounding Sinistro, who's saying,
They're full of guile. In this man-made fog, they can perpetrate their crimes without...
And then another caption reads,
Even Sinistro is blinded in their fog, and...
As the car rolls off, we see the silhouetted form of Sinistro colliding with a lamppost with a massive crunch sound effect, and that takes us to the end of part 2. Top of page 19 then, caption reads,
Part 3, Sinistro's Evil Triumph.
Sinistro's Evil Triumph must have been the caption of a Green Lantern story at some point.
Sure.
It has to be. Shall we check? No, a caption reads,
This is a sweet moment of victory for Sinistro, Boy Fiend. Super criminals, more than a match for the supersonic, super-knowing super schmoes up in the wild blue yonder, are looting the national treasury. Tons and tons of gold will vanish into the coffers of the underworld, and Sinistro rejoices.
2 Doctor Who stories listed in that caption there. That's not bad, is it?
Mm-hmm.
This is a great panel. We see the National Treasury building, very, very well rendered, lots of pillars and glass and stuff, and Schultz and his guys, one of whom's wearing a gas mask because they're flying gas canisters around. Schultz is saying, Inside, quickly, as Sinistro stands, looking a little lost to me, but he's taking it all in and he says,
The smoke screen paralyzes security guards and conceals the criminals from Super Guy, Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, and so on. It's a masterpiece of crime.
Schultz asks Sinistro to keep the superheroes out of his way for 10 minutes while he does the deed. Sinistro is quite happy to attempt this, as Schultz then says, This here is going to be one of them perfect crimes you hear about. All the burglar alarms are turned off. The cops won't get wind of this till they open their pay envelopes next week and find nothing but an IOU.
Golly, you sure are evil.
And then he cries,
Up, up, away!
And he flies off. A caption reads,
The split second Sinistro emerges from the blinding smokescreen below. Super Guy pounces.
Yes, the blue outfit, red-caped wonder arrives crying, Hold it, Sinistro. Sinistro thinks,
He knows I'm on the side of evil. He'll ruin everything if... I've got it! The micro mesh!
A caption quickly reads,
Sinistro's micromesh, invisible to the naked eye, yet known to hold fast a killer whale.
Is it? Now, we get a weird shot here of a magnifying glass looking at the micro mesh. We then cut back to the 2 characters as Super Guy says, I'm going to turn you over to the juvenile authorities and then round up your gangster friends.
Try this on for size, Super Guy!
And Sinistro gestures, hurling the micromesh at Super Guy.
Suddenly encased in an invisible cocoon which is stronger than steel, Super Guy hurtles out of the sky.
Yes, Super Guy looks very panicked as he starts to fall. Sinistro, balanced on a ledge, says,
1 down, 3 to go.
Gasp. Oh, this page is going to be good, listeners. Top of page 21. We see Sinistro looping and curling through the air as he flies towards the Blue Beetle's bug. Sinistro is saying,
Super Guy was so confident. I showed him.
and from inside the bug, oh, I'm getting to play the Blue Beetle, listeners. We hear a voice saying, whoever he is, he's on the side of evil. In the next panel then, there's a massive Baroo sound effect, and Sinistro looks down saying,
That must be the armoured steel door to the vault.
Schultz and his pals get on with it, and we see that the Blue Beetle has dropped down using the little cord trapeze type thing that attaches to the bug. This is amazing. Beetle watches Sinistro and says, he says,
Just as Sinistro, Boy Fiend, laughs gloatingly, Blue Beetle hurtles out of the sky, and...
Yep, Beetle swings down with a...
Zomp!
He kicks Sinistro in the face, sending him flying. Laugh that off, Sonny, says Beetle, and we then see Sinistro corkscrewing, falling down towards the ground, thinking,
got to do something.
As Sinistro plummets towards the pavement, we see one of Schultz's gang with a big bag of cash over his shoulder. Sinistro, falling, is thinking,
Super Guy or Blue Beetle would recover miraculously just as they're about to hit. Well, I'm about to hit, and...
with a
Splat!
He lands on his backside on the ground as he thinks,
I hit!
The goon with the pile of cash says, some lookout you turned out to be, and then Schultz himself is there, telling him to get to his feet and fly off because he's got other work to do. He doesn't seem to be able to fly, just kind of bounces along on his heels, and one of the goons remarks that his boss should get a better lookout next time. Sinestro then gets a close-up as he realises,
it could happen to any super character. I forgot to turn on my jets.
And off he zooms with an...
Up, up, away!
Blue Beetle is diagnosing the action below, so intent he doesn't see Sinistro hurtle upwards back to the fray.
Yeah, Ted needs eyes in the back of his head because Sinistro is flying up behind him. As Beetle doesn't see him, Sinistro coasts along, thinking,
what weapon do I possess to cope with his tremendous powers? I know, my pneumatic missile ejector with the non-electronic rangefinder. In other words, my bean shooter.
He pulls out this little tube and then says,
Phase 1.
And then the next panel, there are a couple of sound effects as the Blue Beetle is pummeled. Holding on to his cord hanging from the bug, Beetle says, beans? I'm under attack by a bean shooter. Twisting around to face the bad guy, he says, you're going to get hurt, Sinestro. This is serious business.
Look at me, Blue Beetle. I'm serious. Look.
And he pulls a face and waves his hands dramatically.
With a pocket mirror he always carries with him, the Boy Fiend dazzles his foe.
Yes, he's produced a mirror from nowhere and shines the radiant light that's around back into Blue Beetle's face, saying,
your eyes hurt, Blue Beetle. Close them. Sleep. Sleep.
And then we see Beetle lying flat on his back on the roof of a building, one leg at an odd angle, and a giant zzz to signify that he is out for the count. My goodness. Sinestro flies off, saying,
that's two. Just two super crime fighters left.
As we arrive at the top of page 24, a caption reads,
at the moment.
Yes, we see Peacemaker's jet scudding along. A proper look at it here. Sort of green propeller at the front, green tips to the wings, fiery emissions coming from the engine, and as it cuts along, we hear him saying, I detect criminal activity on my infrascope. I will investigate. And then, parting a cloud, literally pushing a cloud aside with his hands, Sinestro watches the plane scudding underneath him and says,
aha! Got to be really tricky with this one. Peacemaker will land. If he discovers the great robbery taking place, he'll ruin everything.
Peacemaker's mighty jet lands. The famed adventurer leaps forth. For a fraction of a second, not noticing Sinistro, Boy Fiend.
Yes, we see Peacemaker striding. Look at how far apart his legs are as he walks away from the plane. As we also see Sinistro shaking his hand in his direction and saying,
abracadabra, shazoom.
In that fraction of a second, Sinistro, Boy Fiend becomes Jack Biceps, 100% American boy.
And he's spotted by Peacemaker, who says, what's happening, young fellow? Where are the criminals?
Oh, Peacemaker, you must hurry. They're over there.
And he points. Peacemaker looks in the direction, saying, what's going on?
I saw a man rob another gentleman and run into that building. Look, up there, on the roof.
And Peacemaker obviously steps forward, not looking where he was going, and, annoyingly, falls into an open manhole with a whoops. And Jack Biceps, with a smug expression in his face, observes,
watch that first step.
And that's it. And Peacemaker's out of the picture.
4
Amazing.
lines.
Wow.
One of which is whoops.
Listeners, at this point, I will have attempted to DM John Cena on Instagram to see if he wants to record the lines for us, but you'll probably be able to tell me now if that happened or not. Right, top of page 25, we see Sinistro crossing the road, looking back where Peacemaker has fallen through the open manhole, and Sinistro is saying,
I could just hate myself at moments like that.
Then in a trice, 50% longer than a twice, Sinistro is his malignant self again, back in action.
Yep, and once again he cries,
up, up, away!
And he flies off. Now the caption for the next panel reads,
the redoubtable champion of good and the sworn enemy of Sinistro, Boy Fiend, Green Spider, spins his web across the sky.
Yes, Green Spider spinning his web, obviously trying to catch Sinistro. Green Spider gesturing, saying, "All evildoers are caught in the web of the Green Spider." And as Sinistro almost flies into it, he says,
"Each strand is as thin as a hair and stronger than a steel cable."
We then see Green Spider sort of floating in midair. He must be able to fly independently, I think. Sinistro, hovering in front of him, says,
"Before the duel to the death begins, a word from our sponsors."
Green Spider's not in the mood. He says, "Halt, Sinistro, Boy Fiend. Do you have something to say before I encase you in a lethal cocoon?"
"Just one thing, Green Spider. I couldn't fight with a nice guy like you. What I mean is, some of my best friends are spiders. I like spiders."
And then in the final panel of page 25, we see that the Green Spider has suddenly burst into tears. He's saying, "At last, someone who understands. It ain't no picnic being a spider, and green at that. Even the creeps whose lives I saved shiver when they're saying thanks."
There, Green Spider. I like you, no matter what they say."
He continues to cry, covering his face as he weeps, and he says, "I won't interfere with your plans, Boy Fiend. Tell your friends, anything you do is okay with me." And walking off, maybe not feeling too proud of himself, I think, Sinistro says,
"I'm such a heel."
Below, outside the National Treasury Building, after moving $99 billion in pennies and nickels, Irish Jaime Schultz greets his lookout.
No, I must say, the comedy value of that caption is enormous because all the O's and zeros are written out. It looks very, very amusing. The goons emerge from the bank as Sinistro flies down, saying,
"Hold it, Mr. Schultz."
He arrives in front of the pinstripe-wearing gangster who's saying, "Oh yeah, I gotta slip you some change for being lookout. Let's see now. I don't want to spoil you by paying too much." He opens his purse and a moth flies out, which is very amusing, and Sinistro boggles as Schultz says, "How's about $50?"
"I want a half, all right. Exactly $49.5 billion. And don't give it to me all in pennies."
We see Sinistro is standing at this point. Chekhov's fire alarm, I think, standing next to a sign on the lamppost which reads fire alarm. We'll have to see if that plays out. Schultz isn't impressed. Cigar in his mouth, he replies, "Know what you're gonna get, punk. You're gonna get a slug in the teeth." Sinistro retaliates with,
"If you shoot me, I'll fall. And if I fall, I'll pull this fire alarm. Do you want that to happen?"
No, anything but that." But then, in the first panel of page 27, the Boy Fiend cries,
"I did it anyway."
and we hear Schultz cries, "Oh no, there'll be fire engines. Millions of fire engines."
Shrieking fire engines thunder down the streets, clogging every corner, effectively blocking every avenue of escape.
Yes, we hear the siren call. Sinistro watches the fire engine speeding past as he says,
"I love fire engines."
The paralyzing smog lifts as the fire department thunders up. Police, conscious again, flash guns and take the gang into custody.
We see Schultz standing with his hands up, one of his goons holding a couple of money bags. Firemen standing around as well, with Schultz saying, "All right, Fuzz, we surrender. You caught us with the loot." And Sinistro holding his hands out towards one of the police officers who's there, saying,
"I too confess. I, Sinistro, Boy Fiend, confess my guilt. Handcuff me."
And the sergeant, who's proffering a pistol, says, "Be quiet, boy. This is serious business. Get away from here or I'll turn you over to the truant officer."
"I know my rights. I'm a criminal, and I demand to be... let go."
As the policeman shoves him away, holding up his baton to threaten him, saying, "Be off with you now. Don't bother us any more." And in the background, we see Schultz's gang being led into the police truck.
What an ignominious return for Sinistro Boy Fiend! Doomed to be forever scoffed at, this protagonist of the evil underdog is greeted by his peers.
Yes, we see his friends whose names you don't get, the guy in the black hair, the sandy-haired chap. Boy in the black hair cries,
"Hi, Fiendy."
Other boy says, "Learn any new recipes lately?" And Shirley, in a red dress, different red dress this time, is saying, "Never mind them, Sinistro. I love you anyway." And Sinistro, looking utterly sick of the lot of them, replies,
"Shirley, I don't want anyone to love. Never mind."
And a small caption reads,
End.
But a longer caption reads,
Join us in the next epic adventure of Sinistro Boy Fiend. This clever, dedicated champion of infamy will once again attempt to raise aloft the black flag of villainy.
And I have to say, I would quite happily read another issue. I thought that was tremendous.
It was ridiculous nonsense. So much fun.
Enormous fun.
Yeah, very evocative of all of the silly 60s stories that were around. Stuff like Inferior 5, Metamorpho,
Plastic Man, Not
Plastic
Brand
Man. Yep.
echoes of such things,
Yep.
yes.
with a whole lot of Archie thrown in as well. Superb, great fun.
Definitely.
Interesting, I thought that it was a combination of Charlton characters that they actually used, Charlton heroes, and heroes that are made up for this. I wonder why they weren't all established Charlton heroes.
Well, I think because they wanted to lampoon Spider-Man and Captain America and Superman.
fair enough.
I think
Fair enough.
I think they're obvious sort of
Mm-hmm.
blue costume, red cape,
Yeah.
a spider guy who's full of self-pity, etc.
Yeah, with his Marvel angst going on.
Yes, it's a bit of satire,
Mm-hmm.
pointed satire at that.
It's funny that Thunderbolt got mentioned early on, but didn't actually show
Yeah,
up.
that was quite disappointing, actually.
Yeah.
Quite disappointing we didn't see him.
There's just loads and loads of fun aspects and little like silly asides in this.
Yes.
Which things like when he confronts Peacemaker and changes back to Jack Biceps, he basically says Shazam. It's not quite Shazam, but it's Shazoo.
Oh, so he did. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
To change into his alter ego. But yeah, that was fun. And his catchphrase as he flies up, away as well. It's hilarious because obviously they can't put in the and there.
Yeah.
But just leaving that out just makes it so much fun.
Yeah.
I do like his gyro chopper a lot.
Even though it doesn't have a gyro.
I know, it's hilarious.
That was very funny. Like, what was it? It must be some sort of anti-gravity thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much packed into it. We kind of skimmed over some of it, listeners. We kind of summarised some of it as we went.
It was 27 pages, yes. So-
Because it was 27 pages. You didn't want to do every single aspect of it. But it still flowed very quickly. It was a fun, easy read. I have so many questions about, like, as I always do, because I take it too seriously, like, why was Jack Biceps hallucinating like the Hunchback of Notre Dame and Dracula at the start? Did he see them as core villains, I suppose?
Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more of his motivation, I suppose. Maybe he was just, I am taking it too seriously, aren't I, listeners? I did like his devil horns in his hair, though.
Yes.
That was quite amusing.
Yes, that was very fun. I think perhaps this might be the Charlton World's version of Mr. Terrific.
I understand.
Because he says he's wanting to be a bad guy out of the sense of fair play because the heroes have it all so good.
Sure.
Here.
So he's an agent of balance then?
Yes.
Interesting.
That's a thought. But yeah, as I said, it's genuinely hilarious. I mean, I wonder if when they were coming together with this character, they thought, give him an evil name. How about Sinistro? No, we can't call him Sinistro. How about Sinistro then? Okay, fair enough.
The fact they just changed one letter.
I know.
It's hilarious.
Uh-huh.
And you can't really pronounce Sinistro. They sound very similar, obviously.
Yes.
I was just genuinely tickled by this because it's all high comedy and there's the comedy sound effects. And where Captain USA and Super Guy, who's not in it too much, and Green Spider all play for laughs, Blue Beetle and Peacemaker, they both kind of play it straight in their own scenes. It's almost like they are turning up as guest stars in a comedy episode.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen Beetle look better.
Yeah, I mean, that
Beetle
work in this
looks
is great.
absolutely terrific in this.
The Laugh That Off Sonny panel where he zomps him from his skyline is great.
It's really weird because I've not read a lot of pre-DC Ted stories.
Right, okay.
I've got a few issues of Blue Beetle. Is any of his stuff in that DC Finest?
All of it is.
Well, I've stashed that at work, so I'll pick it up before too long, maybe next payday. So I'm not too familiar with how those stories goes or how accurate this is at the time, but it feels very close to the initial issues of his, the Paris Cullins sort of the DC series.
Yes, very much so. He could turn around. Fire Fist is there.
Yeah.
The madmen are turning up on top of that roof,
Yeah. He's going to get a message from Booster in a second.
Yep.
That sort of stuff. It was really, really interesting seeing him, especially because this is the first Charlton superhero story we've done, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, but not really, because it's a while before they're bought by DC, and so obviously we will feature them when we get to the Crisis, but there's something else we're going to try and do. It was published a couple of years before that, so it's just fascinating seeing them in this, as you said, this very Archie comic type feeling sort of thing. It's It is a distracting sort of amusing comedy cameo, but they're both playing, but Peacemaker and Beetle playing it straight just makes it funnier in a way. The fact that Peacemaker just fell down a manhole is nonsense.
Yeah.
Whichever way you look at it, but it's because he's in the zone. It works very well. You think someone like Peacemaker, especially, because we've been watching the TV series recently, you kind of expect how well he handles himself. You'd expect something major to try and take him out, and then he just falls down a hole.
Yeah. No, Peacemaker has always been quite a silly character just because of the whole concept, and it was played straight in the 60s stories, but obviously it's a lot more arch and a bit more mentally unstable. And the more modern tellings, especially when Paul Kupperberg got his hands on him.
I'll need to read that miniseries then. I'm fascinated because I know he pops up in, as you said, he pops up in an issue of Vigilante, which I think is in one of those.
Yeah.
DC put a couple of really good collections running at the time of the last Suicide Squad movie where they collected like first appearances of a lot of the characters. And I'm sure that issue of Vigilante that Peacemaker pops up in is in that. So I can dig that out and have a look at it.
Certainly there's all the relevant stuff in the DC Finest Peacemaker volume.
Right.
So yeah, that's definitely worth checking out.
Interesting.
The 60s stuff is a tough read. It's not as fun as this. It's definitely a tough read.
Right.
A bit like I'm currently reading the Blue Beetle volume, and it's very hard to get through the Dan Garrett stories because, again, some of them are an absolute tough read. They're just so... just badly done, basically. Caught from continuity, his powers change constantly. Like he's struggling with something fairly menial. Next thing you know, he's flying through space to other planets very quickly, and it's like, how did that happen? When did you get that? Because that's a whole different level.
Yeah.
And yeah, his character's very bland. The Dan Garrett one is I can't usually recommend it. I will find something that's, because I always find good stuff in all the comics that I read usually. I will find something that's more of a hook and more of a...
See, that's interesting. Though, that constructive sort of criticism always makes me want to like... I remember a few years ago when one of Brandon Peters' sort of summer review things, he was talking about some movies that, frankly, he thought were terrible and they sounded terrible. But I kind of wanted to see them myself to kind of form my own opinion and just see how bad could they be.
Yeah.
So you are selling the Blue Beetle book. I mean, I haven't got that. Have I got that one stashed? I think I have. I can't remember. I'm intrigued now that you've said that to pick it up and just see how bad they actually are, just so I can go, oh my god.
Yeah, there's interesting concepts, but just it's like. What else can I compare to? Silver Age Hawkman, early Hawkman stuff is great if you read it on its own. If you try and read a chunk of it, your mind melts. Surely. It doesn't really flow for me. So, but this is like that, but not as good as Hawkman.
Right. So, not one recommended for binge reading then.
No.
Just dipping out of when you feel like it.
It's a toilet visit read. Let's call it
sense.
that. Yes,
that's good. There you go, listeners. That's a great recommendation there from Dr. Watson.
Yes, that's my in stock trades recommendation.
Other podcast networks are available. No, I was genuinely. I mean, obviously, I rolled my eyes and went, "What?" when you told me about it, and then when I acquired it, and obviously, when you said that Beetle was in it and Peacemaker was in it, and it was like, right, okay. Yeah. It's a fascinating artifact, and I'm glad we did it now as a lead into the Secret Society rather than doing it at the time because it could have been kind of lost. But I think doing it as a kind of semi-flashback lead into Secret Society works a little better. Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, as you say, it's a combination of so many things. It really reads like, I mean, the production value of the paper is so, my copy, the pages are practically crumbling. They're so brown. It's like a combination of an MF Enterprises Captain Marvel with
Archie.
With a bit of Inferior 5. Yeah, it's a fascinating capsule. It really is.
The online debate that's led me to this issue about whether this story's in public domain or not was basically around the fact someone wanted to use the Green Spider as a character in a story.
Right.
And it turned out the copyright is properly registered for this one, so this is still under copyright.
Sure.
So he couldn't. He obviously could make his own analog character of it. But yeah, that's literally what brought it to the forefront. So unfortunately, I can't post the entire story.
I will struggle to find 10 standout panels out of a 27-page comic to put on Instagram this week. Maybe I'll go up to 12 or 15.
We'll still certainly do the highlights, yes.
I went up to 20 for Superman Spider-Man the other week because I kind of felt I had to. It's interesting. I mean, so when you say this is incorporated, does that mean technically DC would own this one?
That's the thing. With the Charlton purchase, I think DC own pretty much everything, but there's some things that they don't. For example, Thunderbolt was under the copyright of Pete Morassi, the guy who created him.
Right.
So that has to be licensed separately.
Although
I don't think DC realised that, and they used him in Crisis and stuff like that.
Yeah, because he had his own series drawn by Mike Collins. That
was fully licensed at that point.
Interesting, that one, because did we mention him this week or last week? It was last week I think we mentioned him, our friend Steve Montgomery. He and I believe John McShane are referenced in graffiti on a wall or a fence in one page of the Peter Cannon Thunderbolt comic.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
I can't remember which one. I remember having it pointed out to me at the time, so we need to try and find that and so I can show you.
Superb.
Because the reason I was asking about the copyright, because this could have easily fitted into either the Peacemaker, DC Finest, or the Blue Beetle.
Wow.
DC Finest, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're both involved. I wonder if it's one that was maybe just overlooked by someone at DC. It's a shame, but I mean, it's 20, obviously, as we keep saying, it's 27 pages. It would have added quite a chunk to the book.
Sometimes they just put in the relevant pages. I think they did that with some of the vigilantes.
Ross said that about the GSA compendium, and I think they seem to pick and choose with some of these stuff, which is interesting. Because the Crisis DC Finest that are coming out quite soon, it'll be interesting to see in those cases if there's a reference to a red sky at the start of one issue, will they put in the whole comic or will they just put in the page that references a red sky? That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very excited for that. It's going to be good.
Yeah, they're going to be good. Everything in the one place for the first time. They'll be very useful when we get to Crisis in a few years.
Yep. They'll probably all be out by the time we get to Crisis.
Even better. Even better.
There we are. Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot more to say about this. We could do a complete walkthrough of every page and talk about it. We really could. I mean, it would have been really nice to sort of get a little bit more background on Jack Biceps and get the names of all of his friends at the very least.
And obviously, at the end of it, it looks like they were planning on doing more, but nothing really happened.
Of course. So. Was Charlton Premiere their equivalent of a sort of showcase type sort of thing?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, it didn't last very long. But
4 issues, yeah.
I can't remember what else was in it.
Issue 1 presents Trio, the Tyro team, and it's, who's that? The Spook Man, the Shape, like the world's...
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, it's 3 sort of superhero concepts getting piloted there. Issue 2, Children of Doom, Can This Be Tomorrow? That looks like some kind of... reprinted in issue 32 of Space War in 1978. That looks like a kind of future sci-fi effort. Issue 3, as we just discussed at length, is Sinistro in issue 4. Charlton Premiere presents Unlikely Tales, and the one that's emphasising the cover is The Insignificant Man. I remember seeing some of these covers when I was scoping issue 3 out on eBay.
That's my superhero identity, The Insignificant Man.
No. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued now to go and dig out the rest of these somehow, and if I can get them cheaply and read them. Always interesting. I mean, look at even the advert in the back. It's for second-hand used cars. There's also an advert on the inside back cover targeted at people who are going bald.
My goodness.
Which I don't remember seeing elsewhere. There's also...
You can send away, sir.
Yeah, too late. There's also a really nice full-page Charlton House ad, which I'll put on the socials this week because we haven't got much else outside of the issue itself and some highlight panels. So watch out for that, maybe Monday or Tuesday, just to kind of pad things out for this week.
Sadly, there's no letters page for this story, so we don't know what the readers thought of at the time.
Or even if it had many readers.
Yes. But... that's not stopping you from writing to us to let us know what you think of this story. You can email us at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on the socials because we're putting up some lovely bonus material for this episode, as David said. There will be some stuff coming.
We'll do our best.
There will be some stuff coming and there'll be some amazing panel highlights, so check that out. On Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're at podcast_Earth2, and it is the number 2 for all of our socials.
It certainly is. Listeners, if you're enjoying what we're doing, please consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcast, leaving a positive review. Told such things are good for our visibility. Or you might consider finding your way to our coffee page and buying Peter the price of a beverage as he whips this 27-page epic into something measurable and listenable. I'm sure you'd be very grateful.
Fingers crossed. Yes, thank you. That'd be great.
Wonderful. Right, so who knows how long it will be before we see Blue Beetle and Peacemaker again. You'll just have to stay tuned, of course.
But next week...
yeah, it's the Secret Society of Supervillains.
Sweet.
Exciting.
Do not miss it.
Nope.
On that bombshell. I've been Peter.
I've been David. Take care, folks. We'll see you soon on
the Earth2 Podcast.
Transmatter Cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
Just as Sinistro Boy Fiend laughs gloatingly, Boy Beetle, Blue Beetle hurtles out of the sky.
Boy Beetle. Amazing.
Okay.
That's his kid sound. That's his new kid sidekick.
Okay.
Right. Okay.